I mean, the ideas of death that exist within healthcare are a reflection of the ideas of death that exist outside, right? Because first of all, we're all just still people living in society. And so here we are. But also we are shaped in a lot of ways by what we witness in our patients, the variety of denials of death and fear of death, right? And we can take those internally and feel responsible for them in codependent, unhelpful ways.
We're Jamie and Joan, two humans and bodies who take care of bodies for a living.
We created this podcast as practical medicine for bodies living through this disembodied time.
We want to invite you to come sit with us and experience the beautiful, loving, complex person that is your body. Hi, Joan.
Hi.
Hi. I am excited to be having this conversation with you. We decided to take a week to just kind of pause and breathe. We banged out a bunch of content a few weeks in a row, and we were super ahead on episodes. And also, it's great that I was kind of like, I feel like I need to slow down because this slight loss of voice was something very different about a week ago that came on like around the time that I was like, I think I just gotta not record. So yeah, that was astute, and I've missed you.
Missed you too.
And I would love to hear how you have been experiencing your anatomy this week.
Oh, well, I want to share one particular tale because I will say it was, I think the most intensely I experienced my anatomy over the past couple of weeks since we last recorded. I have told you the story via voice memo, but I think instead of releasing that version, we were going to do this instead.
Okay.
So basically what happened was I was at this retreat/conference for family physicians who teach at the same, like faculty of Department of Family Medicine at the same university that I teach. And I was there, and I will just say that I've been on a journey with like my somatic experience of being in this space. Like if you recall, last year I was like the keynote of this retreat, and that was its own like healing journey of like feeling like I belonged in a deeper way. Because like some of the tricky bits is, first of all, just like me amongst other family physicians, some of the stories come up of like, oh, but I'm weird and different, or like imposter syndrome-y kind of stuff. And then with these particular humans who like to a person are only lovely, by the way, but like a bunch of them know my dad in particular, because my dad used to like work at one point, he was the chair of the same department and he is now like retired, right? So I'm like, oh my God, you knew my dad first. And now and so been on a journey through that. And then this year I was like, I'm just excited to see everybody. And there was a talent show, and I thought I would sign up for it.
By the way, I just love that there just was a talent show.
Yeah, they were like, it's because like let's be social with each other. And so they had like anyone could sign up, and I was like, well, I've been playing my ukulele and singing and really enjoying it, and I like doing things I enjoy, so I'm just going to sign up. And was really like not having a lot of like pre-drama about it. Like I was aware it was coming. I was like bringing my ukulele to work to like practice at lunch, and that was delightful. And I'm definitely going to keep bringing my ukulele to work, by the way. It's like a good time. But then the night of the talent show hit, and I think a few things converged. I think I had worked that morning, then driven 2 hours to the place where this was. So I was a bit fatigued. I do think some latent social anxiety of being in the space seemed to pop its little head up.
Yeah, sure.
Also, I drank a glass of wine.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's definitely the one. White wine, Chardonnay, extra dry.
Sassy.
And, you know, like me and alcohol, we have like a multifactorial relationship. Like it is extremely context dependent and how my body is. And like the reason I'm taking it in very much changes my experience of it, which makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this one, I wasn't drinking because I was nervous, but I was like, I also, like, I felt the hesitation.
Sure.
I was like, I think I'll just go along with it and let's drink it. And so then what happened is like, the night ticked on, we're getting closer to the ukulele, and I was like, I think I am kind of nervous, but I guess it'll be okay. It'll be fine. And then I like walk forward because it's my turn. And I turn around in this room, and I think actually the thing that like made the rest of it spiral is my mouth was so dry.
In your voice memo that you sent me, you repeated this so many times. It was so endearing. You're like, I just can't tell you how dry it was.
It was Sahara.
I believe you.
Desert.
I believe you. Yeah.
Dry.
I've been there.
Literally, have you? That's validating.
It's the worst. But I haven't been singing when I've been there, to my knowledge. So I really am with you in the intensity of this.
Like an example of like just how dry it was like at one point early on when I'm like starting to sing my first song, like my lip catches on my tooth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's that dry. And so that's
as
like,
you're starting to sing your
as
first
I'm starting to sing
song, you get this indicator that, oh boy,
that my mouth is like, I'm actually on vacation. Yeah. Like, I don't want to be here. Nope. And I'm like, mouth, you are a central part of what we're about to do. That's right. Please help me. And so I'm like, wow. So I'm like, so like the main thing, the reason I wanted to talk about on here is like, it really felt like something in me was dying.
Sure.
Like the expression, like dying of embarrassment.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's what I felt like what was happening to
Powering
me.
Down.
Like, oh no.
Yep.
Oh dear.
Yep.
And here we go. And I honestly, because like my perception is that the people watching weren't that into it. I actually have no idea. You know, there were some people clapping. It wasn't like a screaming, loud hooting and hollering, but like that wasn't the vibe anyway.
Well, okay, but also like this, you're new to this type of activity in this type of environment. And so like, it's fresh somatic data you're receiving. Like you can conceptually know people can be enjoying something and not showing a bunch of enthusiasm. Yeah. But once you're the being that would love to have the enthusiasm shown to them and it's not being shown. Like, I mean, the most primal, like, oh no, if I cannot maintain esteem in the tribe, I get kicked out of, I die.
That's it. Like, I was like, is this, I don't know if this is the same as ego death or something, but it was like humiliation.
Sure.
Like, and it really felt kind of sacred and horrible, like deeply
That's
unpleasant.
The sacred part of it.
Yeah. And then, so I, sang my whole first song and it happened.
Yeah.
And then, so it was The Last Great American Dynasty by Taylor Swift. And then I started singing Pink Pony Club.
No. You have to say the part about you made a joke in the middle of that song.
I don't remember.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny. There was something where there was some way in which the audience was meant to interact or something, and you were like,
yes. Yeah. I totally forgot. Thank you very much. This is why I was supposed to say the voice all the time. So what happened was, like right before the end, it's like, and then it was bought by me. And then you're supposed to like go back in, like that's like the big like surprise moment. Like actually Taylor's been talking about a house that she actually owns. Anyway, this doesn't make sense if you don't know the song. But like, and so it sounds kind of like a da-da-da-da-da-da, like it sounds like it could be the end. So everyone starts clapping.
That's right.
They think the song is over. And I'm like, nope, the song is not over. Because I had this moment of like, and actually, I mean, like there were several levels of growth on display. First of all,
absolutely.
I like, didn't run screaming from the room. Though I don't know if I would have done that. But like I could have just pretended the song was over. Sure. But I was like, I knew the song wasn't. So I was like, oh no, the song's not over, guys. And they just like kept going. And everyone was like, oh, and like that. And that actually felt kind of invigorating.
Asked the room, the way you said it was something like, oh, I guess there's not many Swifties in here. So charming.
I made a joke out of it.
It's that is the mark of a true performer. Yeah. I'm serious.
Jamie, I'll take it. That was a joke. You're right.
Off the cuff, chill, funny. It landed.
It did land. I think the tension needed to be broken, or at least in
for
my
you,
brain it needed
mostly.
to. For me. I don't know.
That's right.
I have no idea. Like my friend Caroline was like, "You were great," and I was like, that night afterwards, I was like, "She is lying." And the next day, I'm like, "I think she was telling the truth for her experience." I think, in that moment, I was like, "This is going terribly." Yeah. Yes. So thank you for reminding me about the joke, because that actually did help. That probably warmed me slightly inside in a way I didn't really perceive.
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
And then I went into Pink Pony Club. More people knew it clearly and were like singing along. And so that was already fun. And then I had this moment where I literally felt like plunked back into my body.
Yeah.
Like into my pelvis, which is really
Ooh, yep.
where that's where my universe is, my cauldron, my like connective space. Like
that's right.
I know I am within myself fully if I'm connected to her.
Yeah.
And it was almost like she was like, hey, hello, or something.
Welcome
like we were
back. We did
welcome
it.
back. And then I was like, oh, and I was like having like a not fully like word for word, but a little inner dialogue of like, we're doing this. This is really hard. And then like my little pelvis was like warmed me.
Yes.
It was really nice.
That's right.
And it still overall felt terrible, but it was like a warm hug from the inside. And
is
then
terrible
I finished
the most
it off.
accurate word there, though? I just
Terrible is
wanna...
like intense.
That's a great word. That's a great word because intensity is not necessarily terrible.
No.
I've been
And, like,
facilitating
something
all
was
week, so I've
dying.
been catching language. I'm
Yes,
primed to catch
please.
language right now. So I just feel like you would be better served to shift that terrible to, because it wasn't terrible, was it? Because ultimately,
I'm actually so grateful that it happened.
yes, and you learned that you can withstand the intensity.
Yes.
And that is such exceptional data while doing something deeply pleasurable that was so extremely authentic and I think that moment where you like dropped back into your pelvis was, the part of the brain that went offline while the part of the brain that needed to go online about like esteem, do I have it? Do I have the esteem? Like when that part was like,
oh my God.
well, I don't not I don't know if I'm loved, but I'm not hated. Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
So the parts of the brain that went offline to facilitate that came back and you zip back into your body because you felt more safe.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you stay with something. That's it. That's it. It's a physiological mechanism and it is available to everyone. It's just what happens when you stay with something.
So good.
Yeah.
I actually think like the larger, bigger layer that felt like it was dying, that felt most uncomfortable and death-like to feel wasn't completely the am I safe with this group? Because the data was that I was okay.
Yeah.
But it was the thick layer of like, is this as close to perfect as possible? It was like, it didn't actually have my mother's voice per se, but it was in the tone that, wow, I'm so glad that none of you girls went into performance arts. I would have had to pretend to like what you did or whatever, such thing. So like such like very high standards, and then being like, this isn't that impossibly high. So the message of this is bad, perhaps. In front of other people, I'm being bad according to
my own programming, apparently.
Yes.
It's less like, do I have the esteem of these people? More, do I have the esteem of myself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that part, it never said it was good. Like that, because that's not
right.
Like Mimi was down here being like, hey, remember that? Like, actually, it's not about being good. It just feels good to sing. Like, that's what my pelvis reminded me of. And I could feel it better.
Yep.
But the part that was like judging, inner critic, whatever you want to call it, that part was like screaming and wincing and being like, dear God, what are you doing? Like the whole time.
Sure.
But I had a little more space and freedom from that part of me because I persisted, because I got that data.
Yeah.
And that's not that part of me then died, but like grew quieter or was
relieved of a job slightly.
Relieved of a job.
Just a little bit more and did get quieter and more distant and will increasingly become quieter and more distant with continual practice of staying with it.
Gotta keep.
So we're gonna need to release some more mid-season episodes, maybe some videos of Joan playing and singing.
Oh my, for sure. But I do think like the challenge, I feel pretty good about doing it by myself in a room and knowing that people will watch it after.
Cool.
The thing, the up level was standing in front of people in real time.
It's something. It's something.
It is something. I mean, you've been doing it a long time, right, Jamie?
Long time. Long time. I
Yeah.
feel, here's the thing though. I have been singing for a very long time. It has never been anything other than reflected to me that I am extraordinary and proficient. Like I'm extraordinary in my proficiency of this thing. I don't know what I have a really sweet theory, which is that since I have the video of my birth, I know that the first thing that happened to me when I came out of my mother's, I was actually handed to my father. He was in the room. He handed the video camera off, and then the doctor, it was very sweet. And he's holding me, and they have the camera on me, and the nurse holding the camera says, sing happy birthday. And so the first thing I heard in the world was singing, not talking. I mean, I could hear the talking, but the first thing that was done over my body was singing, not speaking. My theory is that I was like, oh, that's the first language. And I just
God,
like, because my uncle, my dad's brother, my uncle for years is just like, how do you need, he says he's a career musician. He's like he's a deep artist. He's like, I've had so many conversations with him where he's like, you have perfect pitch and you need to figure out why. Like, why do you have that? Like, what is that for? So I've been exceptional in this thing. So I never had to work for it. So I always had this confidence of like, I'm excellent at this. Speaking.
That was your
It still is.
thing.
It still is. I can do this right here with you. I can facilitate all day long. I've been invited to be a guest teacher in my yoga teacher training that I'm finishing up next month, like next year, guest teaching. Cool. There's other opportunities for speaking. I asked for this like months ago, but they're starting to come, and it's a totally different, it's me speaking is you singing, which is funny because my impression of you is that like you feel pretty proficient and like competent and confident in speaking. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So yeah, we're the two sides of the coin. So I really feel you in this because that would be me. I'm super comfortable singing in front of anybody, but like speaking in that environment. And so I know that feeling of like the bodies in the room are staring at it's something.
I love that. Yeah. Well, thank you for witnessing that both pre and now, because I mean, everyone who's listening, that was just like Jamie facilitating, but I just needed
again, that's my proficiency. So I'm very comfortable here.
Because I think I hadn't really teased apart what was the part that was screaming and crying and dying and cringing. Sure. And actually, yes, it makes perfect sense that it was the critic, the judge, And I'm so glad that she didn't win. And even now, by me sharing this story and the way I'm sharing it, I've already altered the somatic memory of it. You know what I mean? Like I get to update what it meant and what it means moving forward. And I love that.
Can I offer one more invitation to reframe? So in your description that, you're glad that she didn't win, essentially, the implication there is that that's what she was trying to do, was conquer or overpower, to win. That sets it up as some kind of competition or conflict.
Yeah.
When in reality, that part of you, maybe a more compassionate way to communicate that you're glad that part didn't win is to say, I'm glad that part wasn't right about the safety versus danger of the actual present moment. I'm glad she was trying so hard to keep me safe, and I'm glad she had skewed data. I'm really glad that she was just incorrect.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, Jamie, that's so good.
Thank you.
And right on the money.
Yeah, this is why I love facilitation. I just love like the precision of like, let me catch that, and can we soften it? Are you open to softening that perspective in your own direction? Because that's what's going to ultimately be most helpful for transformation. Yeah.
That's it. Because like as soon as you said it, like thinking it's total panicked protective mode of
she loves
no. Don't let do you know what they're gonna say about you? Right. No. Like, just like deeply panic protective. Yeah. And I know.
It is good that you didn't let her drive the car,
Totally.
That's a good way to frame
it.
But that competition language can make us feel like she doesn't have the best of intentions, and she does. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I mean, even to say next time she comes up again, if I lock into that, I can be like, hey, thank you so much. And notice how we are.
That's it. I love this.
Notice how
That's
we are.
That's my favorite thing. Yay! Okay, great. I'm done. We can go now. I've had a good time. End of episode.
Bye.
Got everything I came for.
I need to at least hear your story about how you've been experiencing your anatomy. Plus, then we have to talk about death and healthcare. So
more death. There's so much more death left.
There is. Mm-hmm.
So I have been experiencing my anatomy this week 2 main ways, and I can be pretty succinct about these. I think like one was, over the last week, I had some sinus inflammation and congestion going on as a part of a healing phase from like a conflict shock that because it's me. And so I do this with my body. I've played this game many times. Like, the symptoms come on and I'm about to get on an airplane and I'm like, that's not fun, but yes to what is, I guess. And just like my ear was clogged, like, for the next like 12 hours. But I never went into resistance about it, which was quite a growth point and was very, very cool. I just rolled with it and blew my nose like an enormous amount of times on an airplane. Everyone was very gracious. Yeah, I just worked with my body on it, could like very clearly trace it back, and even felt some really clear communication from her. Like there was the conflict, there was the resolution of the conflict. There was this really interesting bit of information where she was like, hey, I would really love for you to replace dinners with just bone broth for the next few days. And I was like, I don't like that for multiple reasons and didn't do it. And now I know that would have helped support her in not having as much work to do for the process of digestion, to just maybe like settle, fight off, assimilate whatever needed to be done so the symptoms didn't express quite as much. Didn't do anything wrong, just like a cool learning curve.
Good to know.
Yeah, so I've been experiencing that and I don't have much congestion anymore, and for that I'm very grateful. The other way I've been experiencing my anatomy is, well, Joan, look what you did to me. I'm a runner now. And I've been experiencing my legs. I mean, it's both of my partners are distance runners. So I was literally thinking on my second run of the day today, this afternoon, that I was like, this makes sense. I don't know why it took me so long to realize, like, I don't know. I think I just had I know I had some internalized stories from 10 years ago when I trained for and completed 2 half marathons. And that was great, as running was an initial doorway for me to get into my body. And the way I did it back then is the way that someone who is just in the doorway of getting into their body would do it. And it was a lot of like distracting myself. It was a lot of forcing myself. And because of just the simple necessity lately that like my body has been making it very clear through many different avenues, having particularly to do with the fluid I can see accumulating on my legs. Like my lymphatic system really needs me to take more steps. I have less time to do that now because when I lived alone, I loved my night walks, man. I would walk on average like 6 miles a day usually, because I lived in a neighborhood where I could walk most places. I had a lot of alone time and I don't love sitting. And so I would walk laps around my neighborhood, and I don't have as much free time anymore. I've told this to a few people about how I've started running. They're like, oh, to get alone time. I was like, no, I've had no problem getting alone time. Like the kids and Tyler, I've got a dog now. It's really great. I can take my time anytime I want. My lymphatic system specifically is just saying like, the walking isn't cutting it because we aren't getting enough steps. Like the climbing and the other avenues of movement have been great, but we need specifically more steps. I was like, I got to step faster. That was it. Like, and that made all my stories about like last time I trained as a runner, I wasn't having a good time. And it was a lot of the power over. That's who I was in my head back then.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, I'm processing this in real time. Yes, I didn't want to go back there, but that's not really the right way to frame it. I was like, I don't have those parts anymore.
I don't do that anymore.
So what is this? And so surprise, surprise, it's an extension of my meditation practice, apparently. It's, a consistent tempo, and 4 steps is 1 breath in and 6 steps is 1 breath out. Because if I can keep my exhale a little bit longer, I stay in this adjacent to a parasympathetic state. And wow, it's working. And my legs are so happy. Oh my gosh, I felt in my first session of the day, because one of the things that I sort of knew but wasn't trying to pay too much attention to was that I was starting to really feel my low back in ways you don't want to feel your low back when you're a massage therapist. And what that means is my body mechanics have been slacking, and I've known that they are because I haven't been squatting as much as I squatted when I was in school. And so I can feel that my thighs are not holding, and so I'm shifting my body mechanics to not make my legs do what my legs need to do my job well. And so I've known that I've been doing that, and it's starting to like affect my core too. It's just, I can feel it in all areas. And I know the root of it is that my legs are stronger than this. When I learned these techniques when I was in school, my legs were incredibly strong. And if I want to keep doing this thing that I love so much, we have to just find new strategies. I might not be squatting in that same way, but I am doing all these functional movement weighted things instead, which my body's enjoying a lot more. And so I've been trying to figure out I do also need to just squat again more. But what I discovered today is I was like, running's doing it, unsurprisingly to anyone who's a runner. My legs are getting stronger. Duh. And so today I felt them lock in a way I actually have not really felt them lock in for a couple of months, because I could feel the way I wasn't curving my low back and the way my core was engaged with minimal effort. And I was like, oh my God, it's back. So I feel really grateful to running. It was just so obviously time for so many different reasons. And it already is starting to become something really intimate with myself and really enjoyable. And that's what I've been doing. Then where I am where I stay, when I'm here in Nashville, there's a little track behind a church. I think I've mentioned it to you before, just around the corner. And how incredible is that? And it's standard track, distance. So 4 laps is a mile. And so I get to kind of train myself. And I ran 3 miles today. I just started not that long ago, restarted.
That's cool.
Yeah, I've been experiencing my legs and my nose. And at the same time, so much snot came out of my nose during my run today. It was gross.
But it's great for that.
Yeah, true.
That's one thing I have learned as when I am running, as one of my movement practices is if I'm having a cold, then I'll have a thought I just want to rest. And I'm like, just try running outside. And it's the same as getting in a steam shower.
Yeah.
And you always feel better after.
That's bold, Joan. That is I love that, because that's something that for me, it's a somatic. Just today, when I had it all coming out of my nose, I was like, you got to adjust to be comfortable with this, because this is not a reason to stop. Whereas 10 years ago, my capacity for disturbing somatic experiences was much lower. And the story was I couldn't handle that feeling of my nose getting all snotty. So I love that you're just let's get it out of there. Let's
do
run.
it.
Let's let it drain.
I just bring Kleenex, and then I just dab or blow my nose and keep going. Well, I loved hearing all the different ways you've experienced your anatomy. And I really loved you witnessing my anatomy experience.
Me too.
Thank you, Jamie.
Me too. Yes.
So good.
I love that we did a thorough check-in. And so we can just kind of dive in just about what we're talking about today. Maybe the most obvious topic when we're talking about death and considering what this podcast is, which is really a podcast that it exists for everyone. But one of the deep roots of intentionality that we have here is to be talking to healthcare humans to and from. That's a big part of this conversation is let's look at what's going on in our own direct lived experiences, working in the field of bodies. What is that like? Yeah. And so this episode, we're going to be talking about the conceptualization of, and then, practice of death within the medical system, just kind of the standard, your world, because yes, I have a health healthcare license. And I'm very much not in the standard, where, as we know, I don't have to contextualize that. We know this. My feeling about this episode and this conversation is just like, I have a lot of curiosities in your direction. And I just really want to hear you talk about like your experience, what you've learned, what you felt. Yeah. What is it that our modern healthcare system apparently, by way of practice, believes about death and the body?
Yeah. I was reflecting on this a bit before, and even like when I started talking it out and realized, wait, I should just wait and like talk it out on the podcast. And then just right now, I like wrote down some words because like it makes sense. So so the healthcare system is a collection of bodies and humans and their ideas. And so there's absolutely quite like a variety and contradictory in so many ways, different philosophies about death kind of banging up against each other from person to person, but also from like specialty to specialty, like informing the culture of how one speaks of death in a certain space versus another. Because I was thinking, I mean, it's not as simple as like everyone who works in healthcare is denying the existence of death. That just isn't true for sure. Though there are certain sort of ideas or illusions that you can get into your head where you certainly, each of us personally, can somehow forget that we are going to die, even though we experience death every day. And so we can each act as if we won't one day die and that we are not mortal and we're not in a body and act in those ways. So we're overworking. We're not thinking about what we want, maybe the legacy of this one life we have to be, like, those sorts of concepts. Instead, we are driven to the overwork of it all.
Yeah.
So that's sort of in a personal way it comes through.
Or it gets kind of like a bit myopic in a sense.
Yes, very much.
Which makes sense. That tends to happen in environments of overwhelm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's just a huge one, right? Like, yes, there's definitely narratives like we're chasing the glory, we're chasing excellence. And maybe that's really someone's like very conscious present idea moment to moment. But I think more often it's a story we tell ourselves to explain why we are so overwhelmed and overworked so much. It's like we're trying to get something good out of it. And we like give people awards to be like, look, this all means something.
Yeah, absolutely. When really it's like everything else is just like humans unconsciously acting in ways in order to maintain, achieve, or maintain/protect a specific familiar somatic state.
Yeah.
So overwhelm, the feeling of overwhelm is actually the point. Like those of us who are oriented towards like moving through the world that way become doctors. Like it's a chicken egg sort of thing. And so then of course the story becomes like, oh, it's the excellence. So it's the actually I'm realizing now that I had 2 hands-on sessions and 2 coaching sessions today. My 2 coaching sessions were both with the practitioners, like healthcare practitioners, like doctors, physicians that I'm working with right now. And this conversation about like my old behavior was to maintain a specific state that just was expressing itself in my career, but it was the state that needed to change. And now my career is very different because the state has changed. So either way, no matter how you slice it or no matter where it's coming from, the state of overwhelm tends to get extremely myopic.
Yep.
And so that makes perfect sense that even in the business of bodies, shall we say, living from and moving at a pace that honors and recognizes the eventual death of the body for us as the practitioners and the bodies in front of us, I'm like, doesn't happen. It makes perfect sense that that's not happening.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, it just does, right?
Yeah.
And I really like the word myopic. I think that's I have experienced that personally, and I experienced that in others. It's really fascinating how when you're in that mode, you almost like argue to keep yourself in it. You know what I mean? You think that's the only state.
Yeah.
And that's another little fascinating tangent.
Yeah.
I think another way that death is discussed and felt and considered in healthcare That's a big one. Is like a trite way is sort of God complex stuff, but it's not just that, and it's more than that, and it takes many forms. But just the notion that, at least for physicians, I don't know if actually other people in healthcare would experience this differently, but like physicians, we can inherit and hold a story that if we do our job well, we can thwart death.
That's yeah.
Right? And there's nuance to that, because there's things that we learn how to do and intervene in that certainly improve someone's odds of avoiding death from certain processes.
Totally.
Right?
Yes.
As simple as like someone's heart goes into VFib and you shock it, and there is not a guarantee it will go back into sinus rhythm, but that increases the chance it will go back into sinus
Of
rhythm,
course.
which is
Yeah.
the rhythm of life. VFib is death, so just to say, so, like at that very sort of basic level, and, someone is losing all their blood, we can do certain things to stop that,
Yes,
and give them
that's
more
right.
blood, etc. Right? Like it's a way that probably a lot of people outside of medicine, in medicine, view that like what doctors really do is like save people from death and avoid death.
Yeah. Right.
And so though that is sort of remarkable in how it happens, but I mean, even saying it that way can bring complications somatically to the people who think that that's their responsibility.
Right.
So example, a patient unexpectedly dies, like I still, like, say I get the notification of that, my heart skips a beat, and like my somatic first thing is like, how is this my fault?
Right. Yep.
I am responsible no matter what. It's my fault. And really having a lot of terror about that, because the related thought, like maybe I would feel only sad if I thought it was my job and I wasn't good, but the related thought is people will blame me, and I could therefore, lose respect, have people angry at me, lose my job, be sued. Right?
Yeah.
Like there's cultural narratives that it is doctor's fault if someone dies, and I mean, I can't even fully understand how much more this is true in the States versus Canada, because I am aware it is. And even in Canada, there's quite a bit of fear, but I honestly can't imagine how much that lives in the nervous systems of many physicians in the States.
Yeah, we love litigation down here.
But maybe actually it's like less scary because it just happens all the time. Honestly, like I said it as sort of a joke, but I'm like, actually, you are more I think people in Canada, because lawsuits, they still happen, but they happen just infrequently enough that I think everyone else is just terrified because they think they can't survive them.
A fair read. Yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it.
Speaking of I could never play ukulele in front of people. I could never survive it.
Yeah.
Same but different.
Intentional practice and exposure. I mean, you stay with it. You stay with it.
Right?
You just keep getting sued, and eventually you're not afraid of getting sued.
I actually I was talking about this, like, we need to be able to like everyone early on needs like a very like low key legal interaction of some kind to realize it's not some mythic hellacious. I mean, I'm not saying it's fun, but it's interesting when it's demystified.
This is interesting because this is a topic that I am actually quite passionate about, is getting people to stop being afraid of the law. We don't need to get into it right now, but you and I should have this conversation another time.
Oh, that sounds
because, good. There's it. You want to become friends with it because it is your friend.
Right. Yeah.
It's complicated, of course. There's a ton of paperwork, and that's not fun. But there's a reason why there's a ton of paperwork.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. We'll keep tangenting if you let me. Please keep talking.
Okay. Well, you see how a thing that is true for a lot of physicians, people are like, oh, we have dark humor, gallows humor. Like gallows humor is a phrase that invites the idea of death in a space.
Funny. I've never thought about it.
Literally.
Yeah.
And that can mean that we don't have space. We don't have time to process the grief of losing a patient that we had a connection with. But then there's also tons of other layers, like oh no, I'm going to be sued. Oh no, what does it mean about me? This must mean I'm a bad doctor. This family's going to be mad at me. So then you can't even just be like, oh no, this person that I had some amount of interaction with has died.
Right.
And what does that mean about my own mortality? Like, you don't got time for that layer, because all these other layers about the control you're supposed to have over death. Yeah. Speaking of power over, how people speak of well, I'm thinking of Grey's Anatomy now, which is like,
okay, this whole time, no, Joan, this whole
007.
time, I have been picturing
Yeah.
like a medical drama of which there are
So many.
hundreds. Because of course we're fascinated by this, right? And when you said that thing a few minutes ago about the conceptualization being that like a doctor is someone who saves people from dying, like that's what a doctor is. I remembered my own childhood watching ER constantly, and every little vignette that is, there's like 6 or 7 of them. In these episodes, there's like 6 or 7 emergencies that suddenly everyone has to tend to, or maybe that's a bit too many. Maybe there's like 2 or 3 per show or something. But that's what that is the drama. There's like the romance, the relational, interpersonal, minor drama. But the dopaminergic driving drama of the show is the fact that bodies keep trying to die and we keep not letting them. Like that's the narrative. It's Grey's Anatomy. I don't know. I've never watched it. I kind of stopped at ER. But from what I gather, like they're all this. So we've written these stories and we're feeding these stories back to ourselves. And then people are going to medical school with this like, I'm going to keep bodies from dying,
Yes.
as if that's possible or should be the goal. But here's the thing. It shouldn't not be the goal either.
Right.
So that's really complicated.
It's nuanced, right? And so it's like finding language for like, partnering with this particular body to see if this particular expression of whatever's happening inside the body, can you collaborate? Because the body wants to keep living.
Yeah, that word. Yes. Right.
The body is committed to wholeness and vitality.
So you got to find out if they're directly interested in that activity right now.
Yeah.
The collaborate, you said, like, are they interested in collaborating with your like emergency services here?
Right.
Like, yeah.
That even feels better. Just like collaborating with bodies has been a lovely way for it brings a lot of relief of like, these bodies aren't like trying to die. Like that's actually like this patient keeps trying to die on me. Like that's like a thing. That I've heard said more in medical shows than in real life, but I think in real life as well, for sure. They just kept trying to die on me and I kept bringing them back, right? And it's like the body is really, really trying not to die, always, like some part of it, right? And it's just that sometimes too much of the beautiful systems the body already has in order to support their own well-being have been afflicted in some way or impaired in some way, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's where we can come alongside and guide and support and collaborate with them. And like, so that just feels like way less pressure, but that like no one talks it like that. No one's like, I collaborated with that body so that body could continue on their journey. I know, I got to start practicing. Let's all do it,
because
guys.
No one talks like that now, but it's just because no one has talked like that
yet.
That's it. That's nothing.
It.
This is all stories.
It's
stories all the way down.
It's
just
stories.
You get to pick, and it's going to change. Like we talked about last week, modernity is dying. What do we want next? Like this body's trying to die. Like that is going away. It's going away.
No.
So we get to decide what replaces it.
Yes. And the collaboration one is my favorite one I've discovered so far for myself. I will say that. So the Grey's Anatomy thing was just that George was attempting to collaborate with multiple bodies and they kept dying. And so then people are like, he's the 007, which means he has a license to kill. And he was sort of shamed for being the resident who was it. So like, if you witness and are a part of care enough times and those patients die, then you start to think, oh no,
Oh, yes. I think I've seen this trope in like other shows where it's like, oh, you're like the angel of death or something. Or you were just kind of jogging my memory that I've heard reference to this kind of language before. Like, oh, are you a body that a bunch of bodies tend to die on? As if, you're doing something wrong there. And even in the language we're using to describe this collaboration and what I said a minute ago about how in these like emergency situations where you're applying emergency techniques, part of what's going on is you're like I said, kind of made the half joke of like you're figuring out if the body is interested in collaborating with you on that. But that isn't to imply that if like those emergency techniques don't ultimately lead to a saved, resuscitated life, that the body was like, fuck it, I'm out. Forget it.
No.
It's because they never, there's just a point where like the
Yeah.
tank is too empty.
Exactly.
But there's never a point where the body is like, I am no longer faithfully committed to the endeavor of this person staying alive. That
Yes.
never, ever,
No.
ever happens.
Yeah.
So I just want to be clear about that. Like when I use that language of like collaboration, like
Yeah.
what I'm not saying is they're consenting until they aren't. They are consenting until the bitter end.
All the way.
Yes,
For
that's right.
sure. And that's
Mhm.
like, that is straight up physiology. Like you just knowing different, and then things will happen where, a certain system will be so committed to that, but because of the circumstances that actually causes more difficulty with another system, like fluid overload, it's that, you know what I mean? Like, and then that starts to have a cascade effect, right? So,
Yeah.
and all of that's still the body very much doing their best,
They don't know how to do anything other than that.
Yeah.
That's what they're here for.
Yeah.
That's all they know how to do, and that's all they are doing, even in the process of dying.
Of dying, 100%.
Well, we should take a break here since our
Oh, yes.
initial, chat was a little bit longer. So let's take a break, and then whatever thought you were just about to say,
Yes.
do not lose it.
I will.
And make sure it's the first thing that comes out of your mouth when we come back.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll be right back.
Bye.
If you'd like to connect with us, we invite you to join us on Substack.
exanatomy.substack.com is the home for the Experiential Anatomy podcast. It's the place to stay up to date and never miss an episode, even if you're taking a break from social media.
You can subscribe for free, and you can contribute to the sustainable creation of these conversations by upgrading to a paid subscription. Paid subscribers get access to special content like audience Q&As, bonus episodes, and other supportive materials that we've created along the way.
We love it there, and we hope you will too.
Hi, Joan. Welcome back. We were just talking about the nature of reality.
As usual.
Of course.
Day that ends in Y, am I right?
That's right.
Okay, I remember my thought.
Tell me.
I wrote it down. I wrote down DNR because that was the other big. I'm sure there's other ideas about death. I'm sure they study this or whatever. But like the other big idea or time that death-related conversations come up, and I think it's just really fascinating. I see it a lot. Like I teach residents, and they kind of, as new practitioners forming their sense of their ideas about death and who they are and their role in death, but also seasoned professionals too. It's like everyone in healthcare has an internal sense of who should decide to be DNR. And I guess I'll explain, like, do not resuscitate, which means like which patients when entering a healthcare facility, because it doesn't matter as much outside of it, like when interacting with healthcare, we need for people to have pre-stated if their heart stops, what to do. So either they could be DNR, which means if their heart stops, we don't do anything. And
this is a did Caroline set you up for like some marketing assistance here for like getting everyone to create their advanced directive? Because I'm feeling convicted again. So if she put you up to this,
Spirit convicted you.
Smart, Caroline. Smart. Yeah, because we need to be able to let people know what we would prefer.
Yes.
And to the point of where I think you're going, like, what happens if
you don't
know?
Yes. Yeah. And so there's a lot of, I guess one way of terminology is sort of moral distress. If we see patients and we see the state of their bodies, and in our formulation of what we would want and our perception of their level of suffering, we think, why are they still full code? Because full code is when, their heart stops, then you do CPR and you do try and restart their heart. You intubate them, you put them in ICU, right? And so this is really tricky and nuanced, like because and I mean the main thing to say is I think we have to acknowledge that nobody actually has the identical same idea of which patients should or shouldn't choose DNR or not.
Yeah.
And that's why it is ultimately a better idea that patients choose for themselves.
Yes.
Now, the extra layer of trickiness, and honestly, typically the ones that cause folks in healthcare more distress is when the patient isn't choosing for themselves, but their family is choosing for them because they themselves are not in a mental state. Like maybe they're in a coma, or maybe they have dementia, or whatever. For whatever reason, they can't say with their own mouth if they want full code or DNR.
Oof. Yeah.
And the family, the perception is, and this comes into just like in many families, it's like, I can't make my loved one DNR because it's like I'm killing them.
Right.
Because we feel like we're First of all, we have, just as a society, this like skewed perception that like, say we said full code, that means that for sure the patient will keep living. But like, depending on the state of the body and the frailty and the state of the systems doing their best, but like, depending on a lot of factors, the likelihood of someone coming back from that kind of intense resuscitation at all can be quite low. And even if they do end up coming back, the chances that their mental capacity will be the same, that they'll ever be able to breathe without a ventilator, like some of those factors, they vary widely. So if someone is in their 20s and gets in a car accident, their chance of those things being successful is much higher than someone who has multiple systems in their body, are having difficulty fully flourishing. And perhaps they are in their later years of life,
There are some vital parts or systems that are in the active process of shutting down, and they don't have a lot of elasticity.
Elasticity is the perfect word to say. Yeah. So it is really unlikely that those will you'll actually bounce back, that they will literally like continue to live. And there's a lot of conversation about like, so how do you communicate that to patients? Some people, it's like, they actually describe, like, do you want us, instead of saying, do you want us to try and resuscitate, where everyone's like, well, yeah, try and resuscitate them. Instead, it's like, one of the methods that people use is like, do you want us to put our hands on their chest and push hard enough to break their ribs to try and restart their heart? And just so you know, the odds are this or that. And some people, it's like, that's so harsh.
And here are the complications. If it works, we've broken their ribs, and then they have a whole other thing to heal from. And how old are they? And do they have osteoporosis? It's like, just like
exactly.
So many factors.
So many factors.
The truth takes longer to say.
And also, that can be very upsetting for the patient or family too. They're like, why are you even talking to us about death at all? Like, we're just trying to get admitted to the hospital, but we need to know ahead of time. Right. And so there's times where that conversation can feel almost like callous. And like, I remember being like a medical student doing it for the first time at like 3 a.m. and being like, what am I doing here? Why am I in charge of this? Like this very intense conversation. But because we're in the system, we also have to check the box and make sure we have the right form or whatever. Like it's very surreal.
You're signing up for a lot that you don't maybe even really know that you're signing up for within the realm of just like human conversation and just Well, and I have done this too. Like the kind of gripe in the direction of healthcare workers is that like they don't have enough softness or like bedside manner or whatever. And because I had to reframe this for myself once, I enjoy offering this if people want this, about like, a surgeon was once like very closed down in my direction, and it was upsetting until I chose the better feeling thought and was like, you kind of want someone who slices into bodies for a living to be relatively emotionally offline. Like, so I don't know if I'm interested in like continuing to fault that guy for the fact that he was talking about my body like it was a car and he was a mechanic.
Right.
It's a car and he's a mechanic. In his mind, it is that straightforward and simple. And on some level, you kind of want that from your surgeon.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
So the conversation and the actual surgery, two different skills.
And I imagine I imagine a world where you can be like, here I am. Actually, like I've recently met I've been like hanging out with some more surgeons because we're going to be in this network together. And like, it's neat to see ones that also have more emotional availability.
Yeah, totally.
But, and then still when they describe the surgery, it is very much like car and mechanic. Cause like, that's what like, it's the skill of doing that, of of
That's
knitting
right.
the different tissues and knowing the
Yeah.
different pathways to the body. It's actually like really cool.
Yeah. And my situation was just like a surgery that there was zero chance that anything would go awry in a way that I would die. And so
Mhm.
like we didn't even touch death. So I can imagine in this scenario you were describing of just
Yeah.
like, I mean, especially this example of, you know, the way you said it was just so poignant and kind of illustrative and painted a vivid picture for me of like, why are you even talking to us about death? We're just trying to get admitted to the hospital, like where something has just suddenly come upon everyone involved.
Yeah.
Of this awareness of the, not even the impending nature of the thing, it's the just potential at all of the thing. Like I can imagine in a legitimate like emergency scenario, wow, you're watching people like spin on some wheels in front of you. But even just with like my mother, her career, she has worked for over 20 years in surgery admitting. And so she is the person checking people in for surgeries. So she's, I mean, I actually, now that I'm saying this, I want to have a conversation with her soon to be like, do you have to ask people directly about death? I'm sure you do in some way as you're checking all the boxes of their paperwork. What's that like? Like what are the responses you've got from people? I mean, you don't violate HIPAA or anything, but like emotionally, what's the range that you've experienced? Because it's so complicated, right? Because you really, for everything to go as well as it possibly can, you gotta get that data, which means you gotta get people talking about death.
Yes.
Ah!
And that's the thing. Like, I mean, the ideas of death that exist within healthcare are a reflection of the ideas of death that exist outside, right? Because first of all, we're all just still people living in society. And so here we are. But also we are shaped in a lot of ways by what we witness in our patients, the variety of denials of death and fear of death, right? And we can take those internally and feel responsible for them in codependent, unhelpful ways a lot.
Yeah.
And then you develop, coping mechanisms like that dark humor. There's this thing that's an unofficial but definitely real thing called a slow code, where someone is technically full code, but everyone kind of just agrees to go slow and allow natural death, which that's a little nugget.
In what way? Like, what would be the scenario? Like, paint this picture for me. Give me a hypothetical.
And this is extremely hypothetical, not specific at all. But like, so say someone is, typically it's like quite elderly, quite frail, perhaps has been in and out of hospital many times. Would have to be cognitively impaired in some way, so hasn't been able to give their own consent. So the classic has like advanced dementia, right?
Okay.
And the only family member lives far away, and we can't get a hold of them, and so we don't know. And so then we just or they've said they are full code, but really all the people involved, their perception of this patient and their suffering is that they really guess that this patient really and their body really does want to go, and they don't want to break their ribs.
Okay. You don't maybe put forth the fullest extent of effort at getting the data from the other individuals that might have something to say about this situation, because everyone is pretty much in agreement that like the most humane, compassionate path forward that this may, and we may not, it may take too long if we try and, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if something takes long because the body will die, but wow, that's so interesting. The picture in my mind is just like everyone looking up and making eye. It's like we've got the slow code look in our eyes, and we're like, okay, we all just kind of slowly back away from the. That's probably too dramatic based upon a childhood spent watching ER.
There's no soundtrack and no actual slow motion.
Totally, and no George Clooney.
No,
unfortunately.
But so that's, and I mean, and there's like a bit of an edge to that, right? So it's like that is coloring outside the lines. And it just goes to show like nothing is straightforward about this.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's right.
And I think the most problematic thing is how we just collectively are unpracticed in nuance, context, multiple ideas existing at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? And so then it's like, you killed my grandmother, or
Yeah.
you family member are selfish and I don't know, like whatever. Like,
Well, we love not feeling the things that are ours to feel. And the fastest way to keep from doing that is to just find someone to blame and to stay
yes.
in that energy. And because the blame energy is the like, if something had gone differently, what is would not be happening.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to resist by way of telling myself that, something should have gone differently,
Yeah.
whether it was me or I'm going to, all this energy that wants to come out that now is being accumulated that would really love to and needs to come out as grief
Yeah.
is going to come out as, denial, resistance, all of that at
Yeah.
first. Totally.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the other like big death idea.
Well, as we talk about this, what I'm curious about, and we can kind of just like finish on this because I have a feeling you'll probably have a lot to say, and it feels like the natural kind of bookend of this conversation is you've articulated and explained kind of what is, and I would love to ask you specifically what you believe there could be instead, what you I don't necessarily want to say what you wish there was, as if,
Yeah.
because it's more of a, what are you hoping to bring forth instead? Like, what do you believe is more in alignment with the truth that you know regarding bodies and natural law and the ethic of like composting and surrender versus resistance and just like compassion and humanity? Like, what would you love to see be the sort of, in the hospicing of the modern healthcare regard towards death, what would you like to bring forth instead?
Yeah. I mean, that piece of it, like we have some really useful like principles, frameworks, guidelines, whatever, within healthcare itself in the world of hospice and palliative care, right?
Yeah.
And so having actually all care be palliative care.
I was just going to say, isn't technically?
Yeah, because everyone's dying.
All care should be palliative care.
And that, first of all, that would really help so that when the people who really have the subspecialty of palliative care come, people don't immediately think that their job is to like, that means everyone else has given up on me and now I'm dying, right? Like that's off, they're like, people are resistant, like, no, don't refer me to palliative care or don't call it palliative care. Because it means, and so instead they call it pain and symptom management. It's like literally they rebrand. So then people will understand that
that'll only last until people start to recognize that's what that is. You gotta
exactly.
rebrand it again. Yeah.
And it's so sad because like, okay, pain and symptom management. It's like alleviation of suffering. And like, and actually what are we doing here except supporting each other for, unnecessary suffering, and like the principles of palliative care are about focusing on quality of life, focusing on the values and goals and preferences of the individual. Like that sounds like a pretty rad set of centers for any system. It will make it less efficient.
Sure. Yep.
It will mean, of course, adjustment, but like, I mean, the efficient system we have now, speaking of, how we were saying, like the body, as it's trying to move towards vitality, if things have gotten in the way, that's when they can start to crash into each other. So the kidneys shutting down, there's fluid overload that starts to hurt the heart. Like, I think what we're seeing in the modernity, in the desperate desire to prioritize not just efficiency, but like profit and stuff. Like, so you see then how those systems crash against each other anyway, and they're taking each other out. So what if in the meantime, while things are dying around us, we prioritize like the body in front of us, honor the body's sovereignty and wisdom of the body I'm living in as the clinician, and then the body that patient's living in. And that really we have, this is not even like weird and different. Like there are corners of healthcare where this is practiced. And one of those corners for sure is palliative care. Like it already exists there. And so like that's what I can see. And that's what on my best days, I hope that that's really like what I'm centering, like how I'm communicating and what I'm offering to patients. And then the additional language is like what we talked about before, is just remembering that I'm not in charge of this body. I'm not even in charge of this body, the one I'm in,
Yeah. Yeah.
to be clear.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's about relationship, the word collaboration,
Mm-hmm.
co-creation. Those are words that take a lot of pressure off of me,
Yeah.
actually, that feel a lot better and feel a lot truer, a lot more empowering for the patient as well, which I think is wonderful. And we can like learn from the bodies themselves of like, we can just listen and learn from our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
They have knowledge and
Yeah.
we can listen.
Yeah. And it's interesting because as I listen to you, I can so clearly and vividly and confidently envision that world with you.
Mhm.
And I can very easily imagine the objections
Mhm.
coming up within people of all kinds, but most especially healthcare workers who aren't so much endeared to the efficiency as they are just Stockholm syndromed to it
Yes.
and don't know how to these are my clients. These are the two women that I talked to today who are far enough along in their journey that they now know that the Stockholm syndrome is a lie, that it is possible to imagine something better and to be able to bring it forth. It is. But I can imagine for people who like have not worked with me, have not worked with you, have not experienced this for themselves, who are still like in this state of like, as I've heard you describe before, like, don't you know what it sounds nice, you guys, but like
Mhm.
that is not realistic because the volume
Yeah.
is unsustainable. This is like the main thing. Everyone agrees about this in both of our countries.
Yeah.
Everyone on all sides, the patients and the practitioners, are like, the volume is not working. Okay, well then what's the cause of the volume?
Mm.
That's the question we have to start actively asking. If this is the obvious problem, if we can't recognize the innate dignity and need to slowly and intentionally collaborate with the body in front of us in this way you're describing, because that's it. What you just said, that's it. That
Yeah.
is, those are our highest values. And if they're not, they need to be. And if we can't live in alignment with them, we need to figure out why. We need to make figuring out why top priority. Well, we already know why. It's volume, but what's causing what? This is the core question.
Mhm.
What is the deal with the volume? This is why I can so easily envision this future of
Yeah.
medicine alongside you with crystal clear clarity, because the work that I do is the work that I believe is the key to, and not like mind, but like
Yeah.
any expression of embodiment, shall we say,
Mhm.
any expression of increasing the ability for a person to cultivate within themselves a regulated nervous system, a
Yeah.
resilient body, and a quiet mind.
Mm.
That's your answer to volume.
Yes. Yeah.
Because as you and I have discussed many times, and as so many other practitioners have told me, a big, at least the first thing that deserves to be handled regarding volume is just the sheer number of people who are walking in who have absolutely zero somatic literacy
Yes.
and also have been entrained by our media to
Mhm.
believe that everything is an urgency, have been programmed by the way their parents were, have just, it's so, the
Yeah.
tentacles of this belief of our bodies are against us is so deep. So you have this programming that's reinforced by, culture. It's the water we're swimming in. And then you also have this like primary sort of collective disposition of like fear and anxiety.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's the reason why the volume is what the volume is. An enormous number of appointments that are being made, both scheduled and emergency, are, let's be clear, actually unnecessary.
Yeah.
Slowing down, learning how to not just identify what's going on in your own body, but then also being able to identify the myriad ways, most of them natural, actually, that your body can come back into a state of homeostasis, regulation, optimal immune function going on there. And maybe even if you need to, some over-the-counter stuff, if you just have some education, whether it's herbs or, something you get from a pharmacy, you can choose for yourself as far as that's concerned. But if you feel just slightly more educated, just slightly more empowered, and a lot more calm,
Yes.
you have sovereignty over your soma now. You are beginning to develop relationship with this living being. You are learning. Somatic literacy is learning the language that the body speaks in. And most of that is pretty straightforward and universal.
Yeah.
Truly.
Mm.
And the stuff that isn't, definitely go to the doctor.
Totally.
And the stuff that isn't, a doctor is going to be so happy to help you with, because now you have you're seeing 1/10 of the people you were seeing before. This is preventative healthcare from those necessary surgeries that end up being necessary after, years and years, maybe decades of living out of alignment with the ways our bodies are trying to call us back into psychological and physiological alignment for our greatest well-being.
Mm.
And so I wanted to just zoom out there, because I'm tracking with you when you talk this way, because I believe in it, because I really believe that this is the whole reason why we're doing this project. The marriage of what you are doing and what I am doing, that is it. There is no opposition. It's not you or me. It's not modern versus, alternative. We have got to figure out how to do this together.
Oh, yes.
Because it's not working. and we each have answers for each other, and we each have support for each other. And right now, primarily the thing that I tend to see the most is a disposition that is not helpful within the alternative medicine space regarding the perception of appropriate villainization of anyone in the modern allopathic medical space.
Yeah.
When the truth about, I get that we all love, not we all, but I get that a lot of people are scratching some itches by believing that their doctor's just a bad person. I'm not going to take that story from you. However, I'm going to politely disagree and offer you not just a way to choose a better story about another human being, but a way to actually literally feel better. And it's to believe instead that, going back all the way to the beginning of this conversation, it's overwhelm.
Yeah.
More than it is anything else, it's overwhelm. This problem is, everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much. It's too fast. This is a definition of trauma. Anything that's too much, too soon, too fast, whatever. Exactly. So, healthcare workers are living in just a constant state of being traumatized and re-traumatized and re-traumatized. It's overwhelming. So anything that can be done to lift that burden, and what I most deeply believe can be done, do lift the burden and maybe help to reorganize save whatever can be saved and do away with whatever can be done away with. But we have to lift this burden first.
Yeah.
And that would look like increasing somatic literacy in the general population, so that they feel safer with themselves and they don't have to go running they don't believe that they have to go running to someone else who is just a human like them, has some training, has some information, yes, but you can also get some information about some of the most basic things. And that's what I believe is not only possible, but inevitable. I guess I have to believe it's inevitable because the alternative is utter chaos. And I just don't think we're going there.
Yeah.
I mean, someone else might think that. That's fine. I don't think we're going there. I think collaboration is the inevitable destination.
Yeah. It's really, it's the only way through. Yes. I imagine there'll be a little bit of chaos.
Totally.
That's where I'm at.
Yes.
But But like where do I want to focus my energy, and what you pay attention to grows I'm focused on really committed to the project of collaborating with my own body. And then through what I learned from my relationship with her, like extend that out to others. And yeah, oh man, the dream of just somatic literacy for everyone, just in terms of how that would radically change every system, not even just the volume of patients, though it would. But like even thinking of the other factors that increase volume, like a big piece of what I see is because employers are unkind to the bodies of their employees. Like a huge chunk of what I see is actually only that.
Wow.
And like if that changed, even if like I would have so much less work.
Wow.
Seriously. And how that shapes things. So like, and that would change. Like, 'cause if you had somatic literacy and you are in an employment relationship with another body, you'd have to rethink that as well. Sorry.
It's an illustration in my online course, actually, like in kind of the beginning of just like pitching people on what's possible with this shift from objectification to personification of the body. I tell this like illustrative example of just like a CEO of like a huge company who has and so, just imagining that there's this person happens to be interested in my online course or whatever. It's a great one. It's just like not many, like middle-aged men tend to take it, though they are invited.
Well,
they are invited. They are invited. But somehow this guy comes across my course and it starts to like completely shift his personal values and the way he embodies them. And he starts to like desire to spend more time with his family, and his life becomes less about the profit margin. And so he starts to become aware of, the ways in which he's asking things of the people that work for him that he is now no longer in alignment with in his own values because they don't feel good in his body. Yeah. And so starts making different decisions. And then it's exactly what you're describing. Now, the bodies of the employees of this company don't have the work-related stress injuries anymore because there is less work-related stress to be injured from. Yeah. So this is a beautiful vision of the future.
Ripple effect.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, is there anything that feels, any final thing that feels important to say about this before we wrap up?
I mean, maybe just to say, like, especially like reflecting on this conversation has really helped me like remember my deep affection for healthcare and for folks in healthcare. Because sometimes you can get like, especially when you're finding your own path and you're like, I'm diverging from the norms, and you kind of like, oh, those guys with the norms, and like they can become they can become the enemy or the villains, But like remembering what it felt like to be introduced through that system, and knowing, like you say, it's just piles of overwhelm, and just like remembering the layers of story that get added to witnessing a person's death, and that is really hard and sucks, and just feeling the solidarity of that, because I'm not separate from it either. Like it all lives in me still as well, but I understand trying to protect me, and I don't let it drive the bus, as we were saying earlier. So right, so I love everyone in healthcare. And we can do it.
We can do it. Yeah.
We can do it. We can emerge from it and find our way. I really do believe that, honestly.
Me too. We wouldn't be doing this if we believed anything other than that. That's why we're here.
Yeah. We're not here like to do like an expose takedown situation.
I didn't need like another interesting project to do. I do like 7 different things for a living. Like I really love and believe in this. Like we really believe in this vision of the future, for sure. Yeah.
So good.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that, Joan. It was very interesting to learn. I learned some new things from you tonight, some terminology I didn't know. Very interesting. And as we close out this conversation, another thing I would love to learn from you is what parts of your body are you interested in extending appreciation towards, or maybe dedicating this whole episode to?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I think I'm going to shout out my belly
Great answer.
and like the layers of tissue that surround my belly.
Mm.
I've been noticing her
Of the
changing shape.
adipose variety.
The adipose,
variety. That's what
exactly.
I call it. I called
Yes.
it that to someone today, actually. It's like there's been an increase of adipose tissue in my legs, and I
Yeah.
understand why.
So good. I especially like I want to shout her out because like I still am on a journey of like unpacking all of the judgment stories I have of her. And in the meantime, she is only there for my wellness and
Mhm.
vitality and only there to protect me and keep me
Yeah.
warm and store for the future. Really, that's the only reason she's
And
taking that
just
shape.
spent the last like 6 months storing up because it was very cold outside. Things are just starting to thaw
Yeah,
out. It's normal for bodies to be in a very different shape in the spring than they were in like the summer
yeah,
and the fall previously. Really normal.
totally
Hmm.
normal, right? And so, for whatever journey we go on next, I just want to offer her some gratitude
Mm.
for how she is right now.
I love
Because
that.
it feels like another acceptance thing, just like healthcare. It's like belly. It's it all feels connected.
Yeah.
So
I feel prompted in this moment. You just told me how you feel about her, how you want to feel about her. If you can just like take a second and tap in, how does she feel about you right now?
mm, like she literally feels like a warm hug.
Yeah.
Like she feels, you know, yeah, she's there for me.
Mm.
I mean, she doesn't have any understanding of the societal ways that someone could look at her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like other than what I maybe say to her or
Mhm.
like that kind of thing, but otherwise she's literally just this beautiful, bountiful garden of adipose tissue,
Yes. And she loves
and
you.
protecting very important
That's
organs as
right.
well, by the
That's
way.
right. Yeah.
So a protector as
Yeah.
well.
Hmm.
And so like some fierceness as well as some
Oh,
softness.
that's good. Yeah. She
Yeah.
just sounds like a very multifaceted, complex, deep, interesting
Yeah.
lady.
Interesting
That belly of
lady.
yours.
My belly. So
Oh,
give her a hug.
well, thank you for joining us, Joan's Belly. We are glad you
Yeah. Thanks for
exist.
being
Glad you were
here.
here. And thank you,
And
everyone else, for joining us. Is that what you were going to say?
yeah.
Oh,
No, well,
okay.
I was gonna say thank you, Jamie,
Oh,
because this was like a conversation that in many ways centered like my
mm,
experience. And as always, you are just such a wonderful person to hold space and ask curious questions
mm,
and meet anything without judgment. And it always feels so wonderful to have conversation. We literally just practice the thing we were imagining, like that kind of
yeah.
collaborative, co-creative.
Yeah.
Like if every conversation I had felt like this, life would be different.
Oh, I want that for you.
I
I
know.
do.
I practice offering out and then I receive
Yeah,
it
that's
more
right.
than,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But with you've done your work, so then
Hmm.
it is really just like rich and delicious.
Mm.
So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you. I feel deeply honored by that reflection. I got to work on my teacher, Christy Lynn, this morning as my first session. And it started with her just expressing a lot of language to me about her degree of trust in me and the integrity she sees in me. And I had my own sort of very brief, like, am I starting to dissociate moment? Because it's almost like too good. Like you sing in the songs you
Yeah.
want to sing on the stage. Like you kind of, but I felt the impulse to go somewhere because it was like, wow, oh my gosh, this is really vulnerable. This is really good. And I just kind of was like, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna take it. And so this is now the second time today that I've gotten to practice the phrase that I decided upon in that moment was I'm gonna stay here and listen to everything. And then instead of going totally mute and having no idea how to make words, I'm going to say, I feel very honored to be on the receiving end of that communication from you. So thank you so much.
Yay.
Yeah. And thank you to everyone who is listening,
Yes,
and everyone who follows us, who supports us, who listens to this show, who shares it with your friends. I was thinking earlier today just how extraordinarily grateful I am that I get this is like the thing on my calendar. It's such a gift. It's so fun. I love doing it, and it makes it infinitely more meaningful when we find out that it's meaningful to you listening. And so please let us know how. Please let us know what your thoughts are on this topic. If you are a human working in healthcare, chime in, please. This has just been such an interesting conversation for us to have, and we would love to continue it with all of you.
Agree.
All right.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye. This is Experiential Anatomy. Thanks for listening. I'm Joan Chan.
And I'm Jamie Lee Finch. Experiential Anatomy is co-hosted and created by us.
Amber Wyndham is the editor. Julia Wyndham is the supervising producer.
Senior producer is Elizabeth Wyndham. Aaron Beatty leads our community management.
Our theme music is Park Pier 3 by G's Guy.
If you have any thoughts, questions, or stories to share about this week's episode, email us at exanatomy@gmail.com.
Please follow, rate, and review on your favorite podcast platform. And remember to join us over at exanatomy.substack.com.
Experiential Anatomy is produced by Windhaven Productions.
What's coming to mind?
Not to mind, come to body.
Come to body.